to everyone who's watching us, me reclining and other two sitting comfortably in their chairs. It is a beautiful uh, winter evening in India, and so I have heard it's winters in UK also. So I have with me our guest today. I have Shivendu Narayan and I have Paras Sehgal, who along with me are going to discuss a few things that matter the most, I believe, today, not only in perspective of uh, essential and independent and extremely important uh, rising of Hindutva uh, uh, in everything, in our philosophy, in our political rights, uh, in our importance and significance of scriptures and history, both recent and ancient. So it's not only that; it's also that the world is facing a crisis uh, in terms of some upheavals in some major religions, and I believe that is automatically leading into a clash with us and with everybody. I think that's those two things would be discussed. We also have ongoing farmers protests happening in India. We have seen a lot of people out over there for almost a month now on Singhu border, and we have seen that India slowly and slowly is recognizing that the farmers' protests are nothing but again a ploy of the so-called anti-Hindu lobby, anti-BJP lobby to create unrest and not allow any economic development which could actually change the paradigm and make further weaken these forces. So I have Shivendu and Paras with me today, and let's begin with the farmers' protest. And I would request Paras to present his point of view, to present his research in front of all of us. What exactly are farmers' protests? What does he think about it? What are his observations so far? And where does he think that the line gets blurred? So over to you, Paras. Welcome.
Thank you, Mrinal bhai. And yes, it's pretty cold in the UK, like it is in India, but I think it's snowing here, so it's even more colder. So, which is why I'm in my bed and doing this because I've been ill for last 1 week. And apologies if anybody minds me watching in the bed, so you can turn it off. But I will stay in my bed today. um,
Sure.
as far as the farmers' protest or any other protest that's happening in India is concerned, we saw CAA happen last year, and this farmers' protest happened. There is one common factor that I see in all of these protests, and that is that people who are protesting and people who are supporting these protests, uh, either they don't know the facts of why they're protesting, or they don't want to discuss the facts of why they're protesting. Because when you sit down and talk about, listing the things that, this is the bill and this is why we should agree or disagree with it, no one wants to discuss that in detail. Um, it is also making India look like, an anti-minority government, or BJP government look like an anti-minority government, and that's a narrative that some anti-nationalists are trying to spread, uh, and they are to a large extent uh, getting successful in achieving that. I think one main thing that if we just talk about the farmers' protest, what has the government said? What is the new bill? The new bill only says that there was a system in place, which is the mandi system, where the farmer, a licensed farmer, can come and sell his produce into that mandi to licensed buyers or artis, who are the middlemen for the government of India, um, and they buy them and then sell it further to the vendors, the retailers, the hawkers, everybody. So therefore, giving these middlemen a lot of um, sort of power of position a lot of power to manipulate with the prices. So if the farmer, let's say, for example, sells their crop at 3 rupees a kilo, but I get it for 30 rupees a kilo as a consumer, the 3 to 30, there's a huge gap and margin there for middlemen and the retailer to make. So what the government have said, and I think the second point, sorry, before I get to what the government have said, is that if a farmer is from Punjab and he wants to sell his crop to the neighboring village, and if that neighboring village happens to be in Haryana, then the farmer will be, arrested by the police for smuggling his own crop, for selling it to the next village, which is a real shame. So farmers have been asking for an open market for the last 30, 40 years, saying that, why is it that I can't sell my own crop to the next village or whoever I want to? Uh, then there was another problem in India, which is an overproduction of crop because of MSP being there. MSP, for those that don't know, is the minimum support price. So the government of India guarantees that there is a list of, I think, 24, 25 crops where the price, the base price of how much the government is willing to pay is set for those particular crops. Now, what that has led to is that farmers in certain states, mainly in Punjab, have only started farming these particular crops, mainly being rice and wheat. So most farmers over the last 40 years have switched to paddy and wheat because it's a win-win. You get free electricity, you get free water, and you have a guarantee of your crop being bought at an MSP price, a minimum support price. So you've got nothing to lose basically. But what's that doing is that it's not allowing for other crops to grow, which India is undernourished, in. And we have an excessive production of wheat and rice, which means the Food Corporation of India actually has more than double in storage than India can actually eat. And that keeps on increasing every year. And because of that reason, the Food Corporation of India is in, a debt of, I think, we quoted a figure of 2,000 crores, something like that. I remember reading that in some article. So that is taxpayers' money at the cost of the farmer. So if you look at the whole situation, who is it that is winning and who is it that's losing out? Is the middleman who's winning hands down. Some
There's
farmers
more
who
to
own,
it. You can finish and then I will add to
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, obviously there is much more to what I can cover, but what I'm saying is that it is very clear that the farmers' protest is not representing all farmers of India. Firstly, right? There's only 8% of the whole farmers' unions of India that are protesting, whereas the other 92% are actually in favor and saying that if you withdraw this bill, then we will protest against that. So
Really?
yes,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you look at it, the foreign media, especially in UK and Canada, even Indian media, that is where the hedge money comes from abroad, from the US mainly, and Europe, is lobbying for the farmers' protest in some ways and saying that, oh, poor farmer, how bad the conditions are for these guys, and they're protesting and the government is not willing to hear. But no one wants to talk about the fact that this is actually for the betterment of the farmer, because the farmer at the end of the day has an extra option. Nothing is being taken away from them. And something that had never been done before, which was a written guarantee for MSP, the minimum support price, the government have even agreed to do that. What is even funnier, and I'm leading to this because that's the whole crux of the matter, is that Aam Aadmi Party and BJP, sorry, and Congress, apologies, were the original instigators and propagators of these on their manifestos in elections.
Right.
When the Swaminathan committee proposed these recommendations, it was actually the government of Congress in India. And it is the same government of Congress and Aam Aadmi Party who have it written in their manifestos that we will remove APMC, which is not being done either at this point of time. So the BJP government has not even gone to that level of drastic measures. I think what they're thinking, the BJP are thinking, is that we will allow the market to regulate and the prices to regulate organically and naturally rather than forcing anyone.
Right.
So it is very clear that these protests are happening to make India look like anti-minority. And because most farmers that are coming from Punjab are Sikhs, they naturally happen to be Sikhs. There is an element I've seen on Twitter, the British Indian MPs who happen to be Sikhs, a lot of them, um, you know, because there are some Hindu MPs as well, like Preeti Patel and Rishi Sunak. They're not talking about it. They're sitting in the government of Britain, but they are not worried about it because they, I suppose, understand the reality behind it. But then there are people like Preet Gill and Tanmanjeet Singh, and people like Justin Trudeau's defense minister in Canada, who are actually crying that the farmers are being, not listened to, or the laws are very brutal against the farmers. It's all uh, in the wake of making the state of India look like they're anti-minority. So it's a narrative that's being built, and how that helps, um, you know, you could call it anti-Sikh, or the Sikhs are doing an uprising, but that's not the right way of putting it, because I don't see this as a Sikh or a Punjab movement, because 99% of Sikhs in India are actually pro India and are flourishing in India, and they are in the army, they're everywhere. They are CEOs. We had a prime minister of India who was a Sikh. They are in the police. So they're thriving and they're flourishing. But there is a 1% of Sikh who has this Khalistani agenda. And the reason for that is very, very personal. So if I was to say that, okay, you propagate this Khalistani agenda and you get an aid from the ISI or whatever, whoever is interested in breaking India into pieces, as a student of, let's say, late teens or early 20s, you might pick up that flag just because it becomes easier for you to migrate to a foreign country such as UK or Canada, to make it look like that you're a victim, and you want to seek an asylum in those countries because India as a state is very against you. So it serves an agenda for these guys to keep it
Very
going.
important point.
Yes. So it's a propaganda, and 99% of Sikhs of India know this, because Khalistan as an ideology is not sustainable. Firstly, because most Sikhs in India, there are more Sikhs that live outside of Punjab in India than they do in Punjab. So does that mean that all Sikhs will have to move to wherever they make this Khalistan? Or would they need a visa to go to their own country, or to go to the Golden Temple, or to go to Patna Sahib Gurdwara? So it's just a flawed idea, and I think it's just being blown out of proportion. In reality, there is nobody who wants Khalistan, and this whole narrative that is being built, firstly CAA, which was supposedly anti-Muslim, and now this farmers protest, which is supposedly anti-Sikh, they are both just anti-nationalists, west-wing liberals or pseudo-liberals trying to basically put a case against BJP, because there's no other way they can win, because
Tell
when
me
it
one
comes to
thing
merit,
before
they
I
can't
move
win.
to Hindu. How do you see, what is your observation regarding BJP's strategy till now? Do you approve of the way BJP government, Sri Narendra Modi ji or Amit Shah ji, or the Narendra Tomar, who's the agriculture minister, have responded to this, chaotic situation? Uh, is there something lacking, or have they done whatever should be done till?
I would say that um, from the point of view of just an individual who is a layman, so to speak, we would not fathom the way that the machinery of the BJP is working now. I have
True.
looked at it from a broader perspective, and my understanding of their functioning now is that what they are doing is they are letting people vent their frustration, number one.
Who are
Number
those?
two,
Which people
uh,
are you talking about?
sorry, your voice is getting cut off.
Which people are you talking about? Who are these
I'm
people?
talking about all of these so-called protesters.
Okay.
Now, we have to look at it not just from this quote unquote movement. Basically, what we have to look at it is in this way. Uh, when at the point of 2019 elections, the
Hmm.
Congress thought that we are going to put a lot of money and we're going to defame this government to the point that they will look like a bunch of thieves, every single one of them. But it
Right.
completely backfired on them.
Right.
So they were left
You mean to
with
say,
nothing at
the
that
way
point.
you mean to say the way they created a narrative against the Rafale deal, right?
Yeah, you remember Chaukidar Chore Hai?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that was their main war cry in 2019.
Right.
So when that completely failed and backfired on them, now they were left with nothing, and
Right.
they did not have a clear strategy on what they are going to do, because the Congress never wants to do anything. And I will name them clearly as the Indian National Congress, Sonia's Congress, that this particular party is full of
You
thieves
mean
and
Antonio
corrupt
Maino?
people.
You mean Antonio Maino?
Yes, Antonia Maino,
Yeah.
known by her bhakts as Sonia Gandhi.
Right.
So, uh, Antonia Maino's bhakts, they are all thieves and corrupt people in all practicality. All that they really want at any point is to fool the people, the laymen, and just capture power by hook or crook. And once they capture power, they will not do anything. They will name projects, and then they will give it to contractors who are their cousins, basically. And after that,
Right.
those cousins, they will keep delaying those projects and say that, oh, because of this delay, now the price of doing this has increased, so we need more money. So
Right.
everything that gets
Right.
sanctioned, it gets built for twice the money, and that's one of the scams. There are 100 different ways that they create different kinds of scams, and basically this is what their main intention is every time they come into power. So
Right.
now that they really did not have a narrative to push this government out or stop what this government is doing, because the moment that in 2019 the second Modi government came in, they had a very clear agenda that all the stooges of the Congress who were sitting in the bureaucracy, they had messed up their original timeline for reforms uh, for 5 years. So Narendra Modi gave a
Hmm.
very clear message to these people that you messed up 5 years for me. I'm not going to let you mess it up again. Now, if you don't work, I will give you VRS and throw you out, or I will put you in a lot of legislation. I will put you in courts, and I will throw you out. So the message is very clear to that bureaucracy now, the same bureaucracy that was recruited with Nehruvian values and which basically messed up the timeline for reforms as envisioned by this regime originally, that now either you work according to the government or they will use emergency provisions and throw you out. Nobody's job is
Right.
permanent anymore.
Right.
The layman has not understood this. The layman is still running after those very same jobs, thinking that, oh, permanent job, nobody is going to push me out. But it's not the reality anymore.
True.
If you don't work, you're going to be given timeline, 6 months, 1 year, and then they will start legal procedures on you.
Right.
It has
Paras, are you aware
practically
of
been
that?
corporatized.
Paras, are you
I'm
aware
I'm
of this
I am
development?
very much aware of this because I know people, neighbors in India, uh, friends who used to work in the government offices. I know ladies used to, leave their house from Gurgaon to Delhi, working for a government office at 11 a.m. and come back by 3 p.m. Now the same people are having to report at 9 a.m. and leave not before 5 p.m.
Right.
So that kind of, and you'd imagine people like those will not be very happy, because
Obviously,
they are so set in one routine and so happy with the system, having to go to work and not do anything and leave whenever or arrive whenever. And that was the charm of having a government job back then.
exactly.
But now that is not the scene anymore. That's not the case anymore. So
It's going
people are,
to be withered away. I mean, the image is still there
yeah.
because people still think of it that way because the perception doesn't change overnight.
True.
But by the time this regime is done, Modi 2.0 is done in 2024, I'm sure that that image will be long gone.
Right.
But what that does to India, and this is my opinion, I think, why is there such a backlash on Modi, and why are there so many these so-called pseudo liberals and pro-Congress people in these offices? Is because they were having it easy under Congress, and therefore they do not want to work and they do not want to better India, which is why they want to. They're in such a habit of eating the malai every single time that they
That's
do
one
something.
thing. And the other thing is that the bureaucracy here, it has still got that, British Gulam gene in them, that we are here only to make our own money and to exercise our power, but not exercise our duties. We don't have any duties.
Ah,
We
Exactly.
are here to suck the blood out of people,
ah,
and the work has to be done by the private companies.
right.
So that was the mindset till now, but
Hmm.
it will have to change, or these people will be thrown out in droves as they have been. I mean, you would see in newspapers sometimes 600 people got thrown out, sometimes 1200 people got thrown out, and a boatload of them were from the income tax department. So
Right.
this is
Right.
happening already. Now,
Right.
to talk about the point that you just raised, and this is exactly why there is all that resentment, and they are funneling funds to create all this unrest in the
Right.
polity.
Right.
These
Absolutely.
Right.
people, the old journalists who were kind of sponsored by
On
the
the
Indian
payrolls.
National Congress and other local parties, and they were given free booze, they were given free business flights and whatnot. So they looked like rich people, whereas they were just messengers.
Patrakar.
Exactly,
Patrakar has become too rich now because, and he doesn't want to, give away that lavish lifestyle because he's too
exactly.
comfortable and complcomplacent now. He just
Now
does not
that he
want to give
has
it.
to give up at some point and he sees that his resources are limited, because अब कोई क्या जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर का प्लेन होता है, उसके अंदर जो उनकी बूज चलती थी फ्री की, वो सब बंद हो चुका है. तो
So that
अब
is what
वो
Barkata has been
ग्लेनफिडिच अफोर्ड नहीं
complaining
कर
for a
सकते
long
रोज.
time. She has been complaining for a long time. अब मुझे कोई पूछता नहीं है.
हाँ.
Barkata was very frank about it कि मुझे कोई पूछता ही नहीं है. Nobody
Exactly.
talks to me
So
from the
so
PMO.
now the next one is Rajdeep Sardesai, and
Mm,
after that it will be Rahul Kanwal.
mm.
Okay. Now tell me one thing. I want to stick to this topic for a few more minutes.
Right.
Okay. Now I think we kind of have a great understanding here, a good understanding, a big understanding with examples, with facts from both of you. especially Paras, that how this farmers' protest is nothing. It's a facade. It's a facade. It's actually another
Right. Now, let me just
anti-Hindu,
come back to that, and
anti-BJP.
I'm just going to go to my screen for a bit.
I want to really understand why is Ravish Kumar, Rajdeep Sardesai eternally and forever unhappy and resentful of BJP, of Hindutva. Why? What is their grouse?
So let's
Okay.
just look at this. I'm just going to go from here. This is the first bill, Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance Services Act 2020.
Wow.
Now, provisions. This is just a short version. I'm doing this from the foolish person's encyclopedia called Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So the government asserts that the act helps protect farmers engaging with agribusiness firms, processors, wholesalers, exporters, or large retailers for farm services and sale of future farming produce by a mutually agreed lucrative price framework fairly and transparently through a contract. Now, what do we understand when we say a contract? The problem is that obviously the people who have been doing pure politics on this since 2006, 7, or rather even before. I mean, Tiket was fighting for this law since 30 years or 25 years. And now, I mean, of course, he has backtracked. So this is what it means. If a contract is violated by either party, the party who has been violated can take the other person to court. Now, this does not mean that a corporation will simply take away anyone's land if a contract has been struck between the two.
Hmm.
Do you
It
also
means that
know?
if you had a contract with a corporation to give them a certain grade of rice, let's say, and for a certain amount, or rather for whatever you have produced from your field, because
Hmm.
that's how contracts would be designed, in my opinion, or they could be for a certain amount as well. That okay, if you are able to produce, let's say, 100 uh, quintals of rice, I will purchase it at this price if it is of this quality. So if you are not able to produce that much, whatever you have produced, if it
Hmm.
matches the quality standards, the corporation will pay you according to those quality standards.
Hmm.
If you are able to produce the complete amount, then that's absolutely great. Then you will get the full amount that is agreed in the contract.
Hmm.
If you violate the contract by producing the complete amount but not selling to the corporation, instead going to someone else, in
Hmm.
that case there will be other provisions which should either be named in the contract, or if none of the provisions are named in the contract, then the corporation can take you to court. They will not be able to simply seize anybody's land,
And the
because
court will have to give a decision within 30 days.
yeah, I
As
mean,
the SDM will.
you are not mortgaging your land to the corporation. You are just agreeing to produce the crop for the corporation.
Hmm.
If Ambani had to take people's land, if you think about it, right now all of Reliance Fresh, 70% of the fruits and vegetables are coming directly from the farmers. How
Yeah,
many lands have they acquired? You should just look at. There is no
they are
APMC
never going to
only
do that because
they
they
have.
are
Yeah.
always going to work on an asset light model. What we know from an asset light model is that everything that you can rent, you will rent. Everything you can not even rent but rather pay someone for, but not pay them on a monthly basis, just on demand basis, you will do it on demand. So which means you will not carry assets as far as you can. You will
Hmm.
keep only those assets without which your business cannot run.
Hmm.
And
That's
these
the
contract
Reliance model.
farms, the contract farms are not contracts between a corporate and the land of the farmer, but between the corporate and the crop of the farmer. So
Exactly.
there is no way that Reliance or Adani can take away the farmer's land. And also, the farmer has the ability to pull out of the contract at any point of time, but the corporate does not have that facility. The bill is so much in favor of the farmers that it is shameful that these farmers are protesting against the bill.
Yeah, exactly.
It
I
is
mean,
so
I'm
much
not
in
even
favor
going
of the
into the
farmer.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Just this small blurb. The Act provided for a three-level dispute settlement mechanism by the Conciliation Board, Subdivisional Magistrate, and Appellate Authority. So there are three levels at which the farmer can approach and ask for, redressal of any complaint if the corporation is violating the contract in some way. Now, let's go to the next one, the Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. So, in this, it's suggested that the act will be amended and stock limits will be imposed only under exceptional circumstances such as famine or other calamities. There will be no stock limit for processors and supply chain owners based on their capacity and for exporters based on export demand. It would also end some punitive measures, which means the things that were happening where farmers were being arrested for keeping their own grain or uh, for trying to sell in other places, those will stop from this particular act.
So coming back to Paras's point, when Paras said that, the MSP is there, and that's why the farmers in Punjab, especially, are producing the crops where they get a lot of, money basis the MSP, and the FCI has to, compulsorily store double the quantity we really need, and it all goes waste. Uh, how do these three laws solve that problem?
The way these laws solve that problem is that if there is a farmer that is now has got access to an open market and is
Hmm.
therefore getting paid more money to do contract farming versus having an MSP, he will then be enticed to then try more different types of crops, diversify his crop, and rather than having just one particular type of crop that guarantees him an income through MSP. Now, having that diversity of crop then allows uh, the market to naturally regulate in a way that there is no overproduction of the crop. It is based on demand and supply going forward,
Right, right.
right? So when it is based on demand and supply, that is how naturally the prices will also get regulated. So the wheat or rice that we have an overproduction of, the government is not forced to buy that.
Right.
And there are other crops that India does not have more of or does not grow more of, will naturally become more in demand, and their
Okay.
prices will fall because we'll have more of them. So it will become more affordable for the
The
common man
other
to.
thing also is that we could export this to parties in places like Africa or Iran or the deserts where in any way they import our rice. So that will also mean that the farmers who are still producing, they produce better quality material, which
Hmm.
is basically in demand in those particular target audiences. Right now, I want to add to this the overproduction part that this is also a scam in Punjab, that they first overproduce, then they force the government to buy, then they let it rot, and
And then produce alcohol out
after
of
it
it.
is rotten, then they buy it at cheap prices or take it for free to make beer.
Yeah, this
So
is all basically controlled by Harsimrat Kaur or Punjab Agro, who are the people behind it, which is why Akali Dal was very much in favor of the bills until September, when they actually became a reality, and then they withdrew support from BJP. So everybody was supporting the bill, but when their personal agendas and the monetary
yeah,
agendas,
they thought
uh,
that it will go into parliament, but then there will be so much division in between people because at the end of the day, they thought that everybody is running on the same model. All the BJP governments are also taking money from these agricultural middlemen. So basically, uh, everybody will feel threatened the way they feel threatened. But that was not the case. And
yeah.
that is the thing. BJP being a party supported by all kinds of a wide variety of businessmen, uh, it does not depend on something like APMC alone. So
What they don't realize is that Sharad Pawar's model in Maharashtra is much more successful than Sharad Pawar does not even have to rely on an APMC to do corruption over there.
yeah, I mean, he already has taken that step where
Yeah,
he has corporatized his part of agriculture. Uh, Practically 90% of wine in India is supplied from his vineyard.
exactly. And he doesn't even need an APMC for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
nobody
is
needs
no
the
APMC.
APMC anymore. I mean,
Exactly.
APMC was a basic measure in the 60s and 70s when the understanding of business was less because the government it pushed the businesses behind, and it was more about sticking to
I think,
the
see, in the
Soviet way of things.
50s, I think in the 50s and 60s, because India was heavily reliant on America for wheat, we used to get ships load of wheat in India. There was nothing to entice the farmer, which is why a centralized mandi and an MSP was necessary at the time to entice the farmer that, okay, if you grow this much crop, India is struggling without crop. If you grow this much crop, then we guarantee that we'll buy it, and we'll buy it for a lot more than what you produced it for, which was a green revolution,
The
which is
thing
good.
that has to be added to this is that there were new varieties being developed, and the old farmers, the traditional farmer, was still working with traditional seed and traditional techniques. So they wanted to bring those techniques into farming so that they can boost the agriculture. And that was the main purpose, because what America was sending was garbage. Basically, stuff that they would feed to pigs was being sent to India.
Yeah, but we didn't even have that at the time. So we
Even
basically
that was in
needed
short
something.
supply.
Yeah, yeah, but because we did not have anything of our own at that time, we were not producing, anything to be able to cater to the market. We were still eating garbage. Uh, so therefore, there was a need, and it was actually the American president at the time who came up with this idea and suggested and recommended to India that we should have something like this to, incentivize the farmer so that he actually grows crop. And
So,
now
so
that
what do you
system is against
what
us.
you're trying to say is a government-controlled socialistic, not so communist, a government-controlled economy within the agricultural sector is now being opened to the free market. Is
Exactly.
that
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So not only a government control, but a middleman control. So the Aarti, which is licensed. So if I am the chief minister of Punjab, or if I'm sitting in the opposition, or if I have a Rasook in the government offices in Punjab, I issue license to my people to become the Aartis and allow them to become richer at my cost, and therefore benefit me at the end of the day. It's a system of, it's so the corruption is so
Cashback.
deeply, yeah,
Cashback scheme.
exactly, so deeply ingrained into the whole thing that
Yeah.
uh, it's only the same people who getting richer all the time. Because
Right.
if a farmer brings a crop of tomatoes, for example, right, it's a perishable crop that won't last very long.
Right.
Aartis form a nexus, a mafia almost, saying that sell it to us at this price, no, not a penny over the MSP. The farmer
Right.
never gets rich, And if you don't sell it to us, no one, you can't sell it to the other state or to
Yeah.
the open market. Therefore, you're forced to sell it to me at the price that I want from you.
Right.
So the poor farmer has no choice.
Right.
So the same mandi system that was initiated in the 60s for the benefit of the country is actually now going against the country. So therefore, reforms are
Yeah,
required.
that's very precise. I mean, it's a
Now,
very
I have a
Batman
question for you
situation.
guys. So, was this situation prevalent only in Punjab and Haryana? Wasn't it prevalent in MP, Rajasthan,
Those places were even
Maharashtra?
more affected. In fact, the opposite, quite the opposite. The APMC of Punjab and Haryana were actually better organized than the other states, and they were benefiting these people more. That's the reason why they are protesting. That
The other
uh,
thing, if I can add
everything
to
was
that,
set for them, and now you are disrupting it.
the other thing, if I can add to it, is Punjab and Haryana were historically the biggest states that produced rice and wheat, which is the basic crop.
Right.
So the reliance on MSP was much more than, let's say, Madhya Pradesh that started producing wheat later on.
Okay.
So their reliance on MSP is so much more, and because that became sort of a pattern, most farmers that were farming, let's say, quinoa, oranges or cotton, kapas, even they started switching to these MSP listed products. What that
Right.
does to the land, monoculture farming, it actually destroys the land. It
Yeah,
removes the
Right.
nutrients. So it is
Right.
not only detrimental for the taxpayer, for the FCI, for the
it's
farmer
bad for the
himself,
environment as
it's
well.
bad for the environment as well.
Environment
To,
as well.
to
Very true.
tackle
It's come
all
to
of
the
that,
point where number one, uh, what these farmers were doing was they would dig up their fields to about 40 feet or so, and they would lay concrete under that so that the water doesn't go deep into the ground and they can grow rice on it. And the second thing that was happening is that uh, I mean, obviously they would keep growing rice in the same field, then the soil turns into dirt.
so basically they're ruining their own soil, not understanding, looking at it in a, and I mean, when we say ruining the soil and stuff, a lot of the farmers that are the real farmers, if you watch their interviews, they are actually in favor of the bill. They don't want to protest. The people that
Yeah,
are
I have two
protesting.
questions here for us now.
Yeah.
Question number one, it's been more than a month since the protest is there on the Singhu border. If rest of the farmers are in favor of the bill, why aren't they coming out on
they
streets?
are coming out on streets. They are not being covered by the media.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple of days ago, there was a news that in Uttar Pradesh, there was a rally of 20,000 farmers. It was a tractor rally in
All
support
right.
of the bill.
Okay.
So
Okay.
a
And 20,000 is a
20,000
huge number.
strong crowd is not being covered by the media because it does not suit their narrative.
Right.
Same thing happened in CAA as well. Lakhs upon lakhs of people, they came onto the streets to support the bill, but they were not the ones being covered by the media because that media वो वही जले हुए लोग हैं जो कि जिनको कुछ मिल नहीं रहा सरकार से, तो उनको अपनी जलन निकालनी है कि
Right.
अब तो हम ये करके दिखा देंगे तुम्हें कि मीडिया की ताकत क्या होती है.
सबसे
Right.
मजे की बात यह है कि यही लोग जो आज प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, मीडिया की ताकत बता रहे हैं, यही इन सब बिल्स के फेवर में थे 2012 में.
हाँ, वो
Exactly.
सारे सारे के सारे वीडियोस अवेलेबल हैं यूट्यूब पे.
People should be aware of what these journalists, bot journalists or prostitutes, as people call them as well, are doing.
Right.
Because
Okay, tell me one thing, both Paras and Shivendu here, because you are young intellectuals, you're extremely well read, and you're hardworking individuals. You've seen a lot in the world, and you have an idea of what character is. You know what you can identify a man of character. You can identify a man who has got some real sense in him, and he really has some good intentions. You can sense it. We are not talking about flawless human beings. We are not talking about perfect human beings. We're talking about a human being who really wants to do something for his country. Tell me, when you see such clarity, you yourself see such clarity in what the BJP government, especially Shri Modi ji, is trying to bring in the country, and it's not the first time. He has already done it. He has already shown what he's capable of. His intentions are known all over the world. As of today, his ranking in terms of public support is number one in the whole world. He secures 55 points, 75 in favor and 25 against him, which gives him a 55 pointer. He's world's number one leader in terms of public support. Tell me, when you see everything of this sort, what is it that you think about people like Arvind Kejriwal, people like Amrinder Singh, people like the Kerala chief minister? What do you really think they have a agenda, or do you think they are really opportunistic, totally anti-Hindu? They are another Congress. What do you think about them?
Pinarayi Vijayan is a thug. He's of course gone far beyond even Buddhadev Bhattacharya. So what can we say? He is just वो माओ को पूजते हैं, तो अपने भगवान के जैसे बनने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं ना.
Right.
और अरविंद केजरीवाल he's first off a joke, and second he is a con man, and third he is very dangerous for this country.
Okay.
Because even if he does not have public support, he will be he already has created an ecosystem of poisonous people who would be able to funnel monies from abroad and organize riots and create unrest in society and cause disruptions at social as well as economic levels. Even if we Hindus have
his own
absolute
minister was
crystal clear
caught
clarity.
red-handed. His own minister was caught red-handed. I think he's behind bars in fueling and abetting Delhi riots.
Yeah, he agreed. He absolutely he wrote it in his statement that yes, I did it.
Yes.
Initially, he was like, the usual denial which lawyers tell them to do, that मुझे फंसाया जा रहा है और मैंने ऐसा नहीं किया, मैं तो बस अपने घर में अपना बचाव कर रहा था और वो लोग जबरदस्ती घुसाए थे, etc etc. But afterwards, when he was grilled hard enough by the central agencies, he gave up.
He gave up. So I understand Arvind Kejriwal is very dangerous for Indian society, because somewhere he does not give a damn about what we as Hindus think about our own country and glory, and what are our own interests. He's got his own agenda which he wants to run over us. Point taken. What about your statement that he's a con man? Why do you call him a con man?
He has not fulfilled anything he has said ever. Everything that other people do, he goes there and puts a sticker of his name saying that I've done this.
Yeah. So
when he was not able to control corona in Delhi, when he was not able to control the Wuhan virus, he was crying in front of the central ministries that please save me. And then Amit Shah ordered for a hospital to be built, a mobile hospital, and it had like 10,000 beds.
Right.
And then he came all of a sudden and put his sticker on it. He does not have the money to pay salaries to employees, but he has the
Yes.
money to run around showing ads on the metro.
Right. Right.
In his first five
So
years,
that
he
is when
spent,
he was exposed.
yeah, so hundreds upon
No,
hundreds of
so
crores he can use for ads, but he can't pay the salaries.
yeah. So tell me, Paras, what do you think about these Arvind Kejriwals, Mamta Banerjees, Amrinder Singhs? Do you think they don't know what to do, or do you think they have, they really want to help our country, or do you think they are really, really, seriously dangerous to our nation? They are con men. What do you think about
Yeah, so when you said the word help our country or against our country, or they want to be detriment to the nation of India, my personal opinion is that I'm not a propagator of any particular political party. I don't hold a flag of BJP or Congress or Aam Aadmi Party or Trinamool Congress or whatever, Akali Dal. My problem is that I'm a patriot. It's not my problem, but I am a patriot. I'm a nationalist of India. If anybody talks in the favor of the country and wants to better my country, I stand with him,
it?
no
Right,
matter who he is or which
right.
party he belongs to. But when such a thing happens, when there is a CA or NRC or a surgical strike or removal of 370,
Huh.
and when people start opposing that,
Right,
then that is blatant politics in my eyes. Then you become an anti-nationalist, because anything that the government of India, no matter who is, who's
right,
sitting in the ruling party,
right.
which party is the ruling party in the government of India, if they do something that is for the betterment of the nation, I'm with him or with them. If anybody opposes them just to politicize and get some political mileage and to serve their personal agendas and make demonize whoever is bringing these laws, is then automatically anti-nationalist for me. So I'm not a
Okay,
supporter of any political party, but I can
okay.
see
I
that
got your point.
yeah,
I got your point. My point is, you have defined what's a nationalist, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So you have an idea that, if I'm talking about revoking Article 370, it is in the nation's interest.
absolutely,
You have that
absolutely,
kind of, clarity of thought, right?
yes,
And I think most of the Indians have that. I mean, Indians are in favor of that, right?
yes,
Right. Similarly, for CAA, the blatantly, shamelessly, the way Pakistanis are converting Hindu girls, young Hindu girls, into Muslims, and then getting them, marrying them off, or sending them to brothels or something. It sits on record. The international media is covering it,
breaking the temples in
and,
Pakistan, Hindu
and
temples.
that clearly shows how much CAA is needed. Yeah, we need
Yeah,
to
Yeah,
strengthen our community, whether it is Sikh community, our ties, our whole framework, everywhere. So tell me one thing. So we get an idea. This is a nationalistic theme. This is a nationalistic overture. This is a nationalistic thought. These are actions in favor of nation. If we are nationalists, what will you call people like Arvind Kejriwal, Mamta Banerjee, people like Amrinder Singh? What are they then? If we are
opportunists, because they only serve their personal agendas. They
okay,
only want to look good in the eyes of the public so that they can come into power again and again,
okay,
right?
but my point is, this is what is surprising me, Paras. This is why I'm asking you this question again and again. What people do they want to impress? I mean, seriously, don't you think the entire country is with Modi ji at the moment, or are they
I,
trying to create a new opinion?
that is what they want to show, because if, let's say, the government of India, which has such a big mandate and 303 seats in the parliament, decides something, then you let them decide. Otherwise, something like Brexit will happen. Because if you leave everything to the public of India and they start protesting against things, then each and every individual will have a different opinion about things, right?
Right.
And people can influence those opinions by their own personal agendas, which is what Aam Aadmi Party or Amrinder Singh or Mamta Banerjee are doing. Now, whether or
Right.
not that's in the national interest, I don't think these guys are doing things that are in the national interest. I think what BJP is doing right now, I mean, I'm not saying BJP is Pak Saaf and 100% amazing. I
Of
mean,
course not. Of course not.
I have issues with BJP when Modi ji used to say that, I will bring back Kala Dhan and every bank account will have 15 lakh rupees. That was never possible. And B, if it was possible, why the hell did you not do it? See, I'm not saying that everybody is perfect, but what I like about them is that they talk about India first, nation first.
True.
And
No, they
anybody
are
who
working on
goes,
it. In fact, he never said that every account will have 15 lakh rupees. What he said that if the magnitude of black money is so much in those Swiss banks, that if it was to be distributed in every person in India, it would amount to 15 lakh rupees per person based on our number of citizens
Okay, so he was
in every
quantifying it on a
citizen's
micro level. Okay.
account.
which
Okay.
is fine, but
So,
what I'm
so
saying is that you should not, and this is me saying that I'm a nationalist and BJP is a nationalist party. Still, as a sane Indian, I have the right to criticize even my own people if I call them
absolutely,
my own people,
absolutely.
right?
Yes,
And when you're doing that, you're actually helping our own people.
Exactly.
absolutely.
Which is
Feedback
what
and
these
criticism will make them better.
Absolutely.
pseudo liberals and these anti-nationalists like Umar Khalid has now accepted in prison. I think it only just came out
Yes.
today
Yeah,
that
yeah. It was
he
yesterday in the news.
incited violence, saying that the CA is against Muslims.
Muslims.
But how can anybody prove to me how is it against the Muslims? And you can just, the problem is that the illiteracy
Let me tell you how it is against the Muslims. It's because in the Quran it is written that if you see a kafir, you need to run after him with a sword and you make sure that he dies or converts to Islam.
but
If you somehow
CA
let
does
him
not.
run away from the Darul Islam into Darul Harb, then you fail to follow your duty as a Muslim.
See, but CAA does not even talk about Islam in that sense. It just says we are talking about minority
Connect that to
ethnic.
what CAA does. It allows the kafirs to run away to Darul Harb.
Oh.
That's the connection.
Okay.
That's the
So
reason why they are so angry.
so
That
they are
why are
basically
they
misusing it.
Oh,
giving
okay,
them a
okay,
channel to
okay.
run
Now I
away?
got it. Okay, okay. All right. So, that these minorities in Islamic countries are
Being persecuted.
were supposed to be killed actually, but now
Yeah.
we are protecting them. So yeah, yeah. Okay, point taken, point understood. Okay, so what is the future now? What do you see in the next 100 days? Where will these protests land?
They
What
will
about the
fizzle out
narrative by AK,
as one
Mamata
after the
Banerjee?
other. The credibility of every single person associated with these protests is slowly being put out there. So uh, people will stop watching this news anymore, and as the TRPs drop, these channels will eventually move to something else, or these channels themselves will die out.
I think
As we know of NDTV, nobody bothers. So
from a government's point of view, they are already in agreement with the farmers with a lot of the points or the disputes that they had. I mean, I think the biggest one was a written guarantee of the MSP, which the government have agreed to do.
Right.
So what remains then to be discussed or to be protesting about?
So that is already done. That is old news now.
Yeah,
That's like 1 month ago, they had already written that, okay, MSP is not going away.
yeah.
The actual genuine demands, they were already met 1 month away.
Right.
Now what is happening, it is the same as the CA Shaheen Bagh thing. So Singhu
Right.
border is the new Shaheen Bagh.
But they can't remove these protesters like they removed the CAA Shaheen Bagh protesters, because then India will look
They would not
anti-Sikh.
have to. They would not have to. Eventually, the funding will also die out, and also the media coverage will die out. Once all of that is gone, these people will go back to their homes and they will try to figure out their business somehow. I mean,
Okay.
these people, the middlemen, they should have already figured out that okay, now we have to change our business model. But they are not smart people. They are taking it on their ego. If I was a middleman, which I'm thinking myself of becoming a businessman in the agricultural supply chain business. So if I was a mandi guy, I would think that okay, now I just have to supply the actual services because I already know the farmers. A lot of them have been working with me already. So I just have to form a new firm
They
and
should they should
just
learn from
start
Sharad
doing
Pawar.
it properly.
They should learn from Sharad Pawar. How he's done it. And if you want to call it corruption at the highest level, then they should learn. They are too complacent and they don't want to change the
Exactly, complacent. That's why.
yes, that is the
All
problem.
right. Very well. I believe this was a wonderful discussion today. The way you guys, both Paras and Shivendu, have highlighted so beautifully, so powerfully, and so clearly what are the things contained in the farmers' protest, what are farm laws all about, what are the flaws in the farmers' demands, what are the good things being done by these laws, and the narrative that is destroying, trying, not destroying, trying to destroy the economic march and the political stronghold of BJP is amazing. Before we wind up for today, one small bite I would like to have from both of you, Paras and Shivendu. What are the three things you are looking forward for the BJP to bring in, implement, or start in the next couple of years? Three things.
I think one most important thing for me, if I was in BJP and if I was in the government of India right now, I would want to empower two things. And I think BJP knows this already, and these bills were the first part of it. The AI-based agriculture in India is very important because that is the future of agriculture. 70% of Indian, GDP comes from there. So
Right,
it is a very, very powerful place to start from.
right,
The second thing that I expect of BJP is to, because China has such a bad reputation after coronavirus right now.
right.
I want India to have all those manufacturing units that the West wants to move away from China. So
Right,
India
right.
has such a big opportunity, because then there are countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam who would be bidding for it, and Taiwan, and potentially even Japan. But the cost of
They're
production
working
there
on
is a bit
both of
high.
those already.
Exactly. So I want to see them coming into play. The third thing I want is, and this is just a personal opinion of mine, like America has a deep state or Pentagon as we know it. I think India should have
Yeah.
and form policies based on nationalistic agendas, not necessarily of expansive nature, but plan ahead for at least 20 years
Beautiful.
of future.
That
So
is my
those
one
three things.
personal favorite also.
Yes, and that's
That's my
that's the
one
only
personal
way to
favorite.
become a superpower in the world right now.
Yes, yes. We need to have an amazing intellectual and decision making think tank which can run the geopolitics totally in favor of our nation.
And they're not biased by religion or by ethnicity or by any form of language. They are just total pure nationalists who could be anybody, as long as they put
I
nation
think
first.
we Hindus are already very secular. We are too secular already. तो वो तो
Yes.
होने ही नहीं देंगे हम लोग, वो तो है ही है. Shivendu, let's have this bite from you.
So, three things that I would like to see the BJP doing, especially, is first of all, fire everyone in Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Delhi. Fire every big leader that you've had for the last 20 years or so. fire every single one of them and bring in new blood from the universities, just like Tejasvi Surya,
Right.
uh, some
Just
really
like they're
sharp new
bringing
leaders.
Ganguly in Bengal.
Yeah, Ganguly in Bengal. So uh, in Bengal, what's going to happen? We'll just have to see how they roll in. I mean, the Bengal BJP is also like I would say it has a lot of characters whom I would not define as strong leaders. They're there somehow trying to portray themselves, project themselves, but
But
uh,
TMC's time is up now.
yeah,
That's why we know.
I mean, the BJP will win in Bengal more so because Mamta's time is up rather than by themselves. So
Mamata has
that's
been a bad leader. That's why
And
BJP
I
will
think
win.
JP Nadda, the way he campaigns, whether it's in Bihar or anywhere else, now he's doing it
Amazing.
in he's doing it in West Bengal as well.
He's
That
running
that
the
is also
cadre
good.
very strongly and very, inspirationally.
Yes.
Yeah.
so
Very
in all of
organized.
those states, those four states especially, I would like to see them reinforcing their cadre with fresh blood and throwing out the old ones who have kind of become complacent, and they're just creating their own fortresses and kind of creating their own factions within the party, with which they can have their moats and stay there comfortably as somebody in the party like a vice president or something. So you have to throw those people out. The second thing is deep indoctrination of everyone you have taken into the party in the last 4 or 5 years, because the party has exploded in these last 5 years. They have taken in leaders from Samajwadi Party, the Congress,
Yeah.
and every other local outfit that was opposing them. Now those leaders have understood that going into the BJP means a good career in the future. So
Yeah.
so BJP is the Microsoft of politics. So
True.
you have to start indoctrinating them deeply and bring them to the level of the old core, which is grown from the RSS and which has that capability of understanding national interest and acting upon that, and understanding that whether you make money or you don't make money, power does not come from it. Number one, I mean, look at uh, both Genghis Khan and Narendra Modi. They did not do it with money. Personally, they don't have that much money, but Genghis Khan was the Khan of Khans for the Mongols and the leader of the greatest empire ever in the world. And Narendra Modi is the Khan of Khans of BJP and the leader of the greatest, the largest political party in the world.
True.
So you have to ingrain into your party cadre the new leadership that has been engulfed, that uh, we are not here to uh, grab money from the taxpayer. Yes, we will make money. You can have business concerns and you can give them contracts and so on and so forth. But do all of those things legitimately, make money legitimately, give good quality infrastructure to the country, give good quality services to the country, and make money in that way. That's perfectly fine. But we are not here to grab the taxpayers' money the way the previous regimes did. So that has to be ingrained. I mean, we look at these incidents such as Kuldeep Sengar in UP. He was given so much protection for
Jesus.
quite a long time, and it was a black mark on the
Yes.
party's reputation. And
It's a
these
black
kind of
mark.
things,
Yes, it is.
yeah, now they have started working on it. Recently, there was a rioter who was actually taken in by the local BJP members, but he was thrown out the same evening. So that sort
Yes.
of thing is actually they are on guard now, which is something that I'm happy about.
Yeah.
So those are two things.
Because we only revolted. Because people like you, me, Paras, who are nationalists, we itself it backfired from us. We criticized it
Somebody
heavily,
told
and
the
the ancestors that
regional
old people are not
president.
happy with the.
Yeah, the Pradesh president was made aware of this person's background, so he was thrown out of the party the same evening. So, um, those two things. Other than that, BJP really needs to go back to its core of protecting Hindus. I mean, every single day, not a single day goes by when we don't hear an atrocity on a Hindu woman by a Muslim man somewhere in the country, or some kind of a minor riot in some place, or Hindus being pressurized to run away from one place or the other. Mewat being a blacklisted space. So we know of those things every single day. And I mean, a matter of shame again, 31st of December, we got to hear of the beheading of a Ram Murti in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is very quickly becoming Christianized, and that is something that they have to work on really hard. They have to support the VHP and redo the whole thing in Andhra Pradesh. So those are the three things that I think that the BJP should look at in the future.
Excellent, very useful, and I really hope this video goes up to the BJP unit. Some president or some functionary really is able to go through what you two gentlemen have enormously explained so well and laid it out so clearly to all of us and to every Indian out there, every Bharatiya out there. So thank you so much, guys. It was the best video so far, I believe, and this will really this will really attract the attention and churn the intellect of a lot of people all over the world. So thanks once again. And before I wind up, before I say a goodbye, I want to let the whole all of people who are watching us or who like our channel or who are going to watch this video, I want to tell them the next video is going to be even better, because in the next video, in the next session, we three, or maybe we'll have one or two more guests, we will talk about what is the current state of Islam versus the ground reality of the entire planet, of the entire world, and does Islam need a new prophet?
That's a blasphemous thing to say.
Yeah, is Islam ready for a new prophet? Because the way they are stuck to their Sharia, the way the whole narrative is so contradictory in nature that no, we are peacefuls, but at the same time, Islamic money cannot be used to build Hindu temples or any kind of idols. Islamic money cannot be used to help kafirs, and kafirs must be converted. These are two contradictory views. How can you be a peaceful and how can you still have those views? So I think we need to brainstorm that. We need to brainstorm that
It's
in the
that
coming.
Sith mentality. I mean, if you've actually watched Star Wars, the Sith say, if you're not with me, then you're against me. So
Then you're against me. Exactly. So we need to go through this in context of India, in context of how Islamic invasion happened in India and what kind of results it produced. I mean, we are happy to mingle with other races, but the results should be good. And about the nature of Islam and its effect on the rest of the world. So please keep watching us, and definitely we look forward to another video ourselves. Thank you so much, Shivendu. Thank you so much, Paras. You guys have a good night.